Content warning. This podcast contains themes that may cause upset or disturb people. The content in question contains references to issues surrounding mental health. If you would like to avoid this section of the podcast, it is discussed from 22 minutes and 3 seconds through 27 minutes and 30 seconds. That's 22 minutes and 3 seconds to 27 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you.
Well, in that case, we won't tell them that it's a kobold just behind the door.
Just everything's going to be a mimic. That door, a mimic. That chair, a mimic.
Everything's a mimic, yeah. I laughed, they laughed, the toaster laughed. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Forever DM. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome to the pinky that is the brain of Clash of Quests, which is our Saturday show where a bunch of Forever DMs get together. And, we kind of decided that we were going to run a game. So there are 6 Forever DMs that decide to run a game of Dungeons and Dragons, and we all take turns being the DM, each taking us through a level. Definitely tune in. It's chaos. But yeah, definitely worth dropping in. However, back to this, the Forever DM. Today's guest is the one and the only Mr. Alex. How are you doing today, man? You good?
Hey, how you doing, man? Thank you for inviting me over. It's a huge pleasure to be here.
Thanks, man. All
6
right, so
DMs in one story, though?
Yeah, 6 DMs.
Okay, how does the rules go? Do people, butt in and, no, this is how this should be? Or is it just, free roam? Whoever's the main DM is the one who, sets the rules and the standards and stuff?
So the way that we roll is that we have one DM takes the other DMs per level. So the other DMs are technically players for a level, and then as soon as that level's done, it kind of shifts around, and the next DM takes the story and then takes the players through to the next level. One level apiece. What's really cool about it, though, is because we're all DMs, the etiquette is incredible. All of us have been playing it for a fair amount of time, so we kind of know that, some people talk and other people listen, and we're all familiar with the rule set, and it's a super weird experiment. I'm not gonna lie. We weren't sure if it would work, and so far it is working.
That sounds very familiar. I'm trying a new formula that we don't know that might work, but somehow it's working.
yeah. It's just like everyone, if no one says it out loud, then it's fine. Don't jinx it.
So, fingers crossed.
But on to you, my friend. This is what we're here for. We're here to talk to you. What edition are you currently running?
We're currently running 5e.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're doing the Dragons of Icespire opening booklet adventure.
I haven't played that. Is that the one that comes with the adventure starter thing?
Yes, it does. And it's the one that comes with a free subscription to D&D Beyond. It's like the box. The first one, you had to deal with Phandalin and goblins and a bunch of stuff. This one, you're dealing in Phandalin again, and you're basically trying to stop a dragon from destroying the town.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very fun adventure. I had to change a couple of things here and there to kind of fit the motif of what we do. It's been fun. I have 3 new players, and myself and my roommate Sean, who plays Levicius on the podcast. He's played before, so him, and Will, who plays Lunar Moth. All 3 of us have played before, so we're kind of just hey, this is how you play. We're trying to give them the little tips and tricks, trying to pull them in with role playing and stuff like that.
So I've got 2 questions there. My first question is, how do you deal with the role play aspect? So there are some players out there that aren't they're not really familiar, or they're not comfortable with role playing. How do you deal with that?
I try to talk to them as if they were the character. So in my story, there's Lisa, Wizwit, Lunar Moth, and Levicius. So I would talk to my players as their characters. They go into an inn, I'll act as the innkeeper and talk to them directly instead of all right, so what do you guys do? Instead, it's hey, Levicius, how you doing? And stuff like that. The hooks have been working little by little. As any DM knows, you have to kind of roll with the dice sometimes, kind of have to improv on the spot. And I've done that a lot. They've been liking it. Those little improv moments I've seen have been hooking them more and more into role-playing, which is great.
So are you more of a, I know you're running a module at the moment, but are you more homebrew, or you're more like a modular guy?
I'm running the module kind of like a guideline or kind of like an outline. I'm kind of twisting the story here and there. I'm keeping elements from the module. I'm adding my own stuff because after they're done with this, it's like, this is where I'm kind of breaking it into parts. So I'm doing the module first to get them acquainted with the rules of D&D, how magic works, how role-playing works. This is how battle works. And once we're done with the module, I'll be moving on to a custom storyline that I'm working on.
What tips have you been giving your players, like new players?
Just have fun. If you think you sound silly and you feel silly, playing this character, then you're doing it right. Like, there is no wrong way to play D&D. We all know this. Just try to feel as comfortable as you can, and it's usually with the barkeep usually gets the party going.
Yeah, I think that's always a good standard trope to lean on because it works every time.
Every time. One of the characters gave me kind of like free reign for her background. I've been dropping hints and stuff like that for her that way. She seems very interested in her character's background now, which I won't be spoiling anything on here. You guys are gonna have to tune in to listen to it.
No, that's you'd be surprised. Like, obviously, we're talking to DMs with live games, and there's always that moment of I can't tell you what's happening in case they listen.
Yeah, which they probably will listen to this, knowing them.
Well, in that case, we won't tell them that it's a kobold just behind the door.
Yeah, I won't.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, they'll find out by themselves.
And that treasure chest is not a mimic.
I saw something incredibly mean the other day, which was it's a party that's sent into this castle to retrieve an object, and they go down into the croft, the undercroft, the cellar, and there are just crates everywhere, and one of those has the object in it, and everything else is a mimic.
My God, amazing.
Yeah, that's 100% stolen. I don't know where I'm going to put that in, but I'll definitely put it in somewhere.
You'll probably hear it somewhere during our story.
If your players do listen, now they'll just be panicking.
Oh, forever. Yeah, definitely. Just everything's going to be a mimic. That door, a mimic. That chair, a mimic.
Everything's a mimic, yeah. I laughed, they laughed, the toaster laughed. So, as a DM, like, I love asking this question, like, what's been your drop the mic moment when you've been like, yes, that's it? Might not be in this campaign, might be in any campaign that you've run previously, where you've been like, yes, I've done it. I am a DM.
So this last session that we did, they were going to a lighthouse to stop this half orc from using the lighthouse to like bring in ships into the cliffs and just having them crash into the bay. So he has a pet shark in the water. They went into the water. Our bard cast Speak with Animals, and they kind of like went back and forth with that shark. And it was just me and Lisa, who is played by Nyla. This is her first time playing a bard, playing D&D. The last thing she played was Vampire the Masquerade, the tabletop game. So that shows you how far back she hasn't played any like role-playing games like that.
Yeah, for sure.
She just... It was out of nowhere where she just started acting like this goblin with a Brooklyn accent, like, hey, how you doing, man? We just went back and forth, and it was just us for like 10 minutes, just bantering back and forth, and we had everybody laughing at the table. After that was done, they were just saying like, oh, we had so much fun and everything, and that's when I was like, all right, I got it. That was my drop the mic moment where I was able to kind of use all of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years and from seeing other DMs, Matt Mercer, Matt Colville, Brandon Lee Mulligan, Griffin McElroy, like anybody who you could think of, like that's who I listen to. That's who I get my tips and tricks from. And it worked. And she seemed to be pulled into the story at that moment. My go-to tip is try to make them laugh. If you could get them laughing, that'll kind of get the nerves out of their system. That'll make them more acceptable to like, all right, we'll give this a try instead of just sitting there on your phone, going through Facebook.
I was about to ask, what is your opinion on phones at the table?
We try to have no phones at the table. We do have people who are parents as my players, so if they have to go, they have to go. I understand that, but most of the time we record 1 to 2 hours. That's like 1 or 2 episodes, and we try not to have any phones. and we just try to enjoy our time like away from the craziness that's going on in the world. This world where for an hour we could be somebody else and laugh at stupid jokes, or go and kill the skeleton or this dragon, find this treasure, get money, spend it on pretty items.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I think, yeah, I'm a bit harder with phones on tables. I don't like it. I want my players to be in the moment, and if they're not, then
Yeah.
I need to figure that out. Okay, so what other tips would you give a DM apart from make them laugh?
Take notes on where you would like the story to go, and just your players are going to be your players. They're going to do something out of nowhere that you're just not going to expect. That's where you have your pen and pad, you write down what happened, and you kind of mold the story to that outcome.
Agreed. Yeah, note taking is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Take all the notes.
Another thing is on your DM screen, I would say write down their passive perceptions, their constitution scores, their dexterity scores, their strength scores, just like a little note on the side. If you do characters
you can find those
like
little mini character printouts.
Or like sticky notes that you can just place right onto your screen and whatnot. Or if you have like a pad and paper right in front of you, learn spells. Try to learn spells like the back of your hand, because players are gonna go, oh, I cast Fireball, Liamon's Tiny Hut, and you just kind of have to know off the top of your head, like, all right, this is what this does. This is how much area of effect it's gonna be. This is how long the casting time is gonna be. I wouldn't say read the Dungeon Master's Guide front to back, but read the important parts. Read, battling.
Yeah,
definitely battling.
I think the biggest kind of backlog in D&D is the spells. So I think, you'd be doing yourself a massive favor if you could get those spells down.
Yeah. Like I have little spell cards for like every class. And I just have those. Like I purposely go into my players' character sheets and I write down what spells they have just so I could have them like on a stack right next to me. Like, all right, this is what this character's doing. I know what it does. They don't have to explain it, especially on audio medium. It's kind of boring sometimes to just read off of the spell card. So, I know automatically what they're going to do. I have them, explain or describe how they're going to do something.
So what do you do when they're a druid and they have to prep their spells every morning?
I haven't gotten a druid in my party yet.
Okay.
I haven't gotten a druid or a cleric or a wizard. Nothing that has to prepare spells. But usually, some players, they don't like to step out of their boundaries or like their comfort zone when it comes to spells. People who play druids, wizards, clerics who have to prepare everything, I feel like are more seasoned players.
True.
This isn't their first, fourth, this will be like their fifth time, sixth time playing. They know how a character runs. They know how their class works. So I feel like they wouldn't try to customize way too much in picking their spells, kind of know what they're going to be having. It's more so knowing your players also. That's another tip. Learn your players. Know how they react in certain situations. You know that this player might be the murder hobo. This person might be the one who checks every corner, every trap, checks every body for loot and stuff like that. If you have a party member that is just gung-ho, blazing, goes in first, try to work around that.
I think, trying to figure out your player's play style is incredibly important, because you're right. There are numerous different ways to play D&D, and none of them are really wrong, as long as you've got the right DM who understands what their party needs, and balancing those players.
Definitely.
We've kind of covered D&D, and we'll totally come back to it. But what other RPGs have you played? Mainly a D&D guy.
I played Monster of the Week, which is very fun.
You want to explain what Monster of the Week is to folks?
Yeah, Monster of the Week is like, they kind of take your weekly television show of like Supernatural, Buffy, X-Files, and they kind of make it into tabletop gaming, where every, quote, week, unquote, would be a different monster that you will go hunt out. Every character is very simple to play, and it's one sheet, front and back. You only roll 2d6s, which is great. You don't have to have this whole sack like I do. For me, as the keeper, I roll no dice. For me, it's just I react to what you're doing, what my players are doing completely. The story's mostly up to them. If they're comfortable kind of writing the narrative a little bit, have a go at it. That's very fun. I played I forgot the name of it, but it's where you're all bears with different hats.
Oh, is that what they
Honey Heist?
Honey
Is it
Heist?
Honey
Yeah,
Heist?
yeah. What they
Yeah, I
played
think
on
so. Yeah,
on Crit
we
Roll,
played, yeah, I played Honey Heist, which is fun, being a bunch of bears. Basically the same thing. It's you're different bears. You get different hats that give you different job classes. And again, you only roll 2d6. Other than that, I did a lot of role playing in like chat rooms, like back in the
totally.
day, and message boards and stuff like that. I've LARPed once.
How did you find LARPing or live action role play for the uninitiated?
Yeah, live action role playing. It's not that far off from D&D. Just you're literally, as your character, you act, you fight. That's like one of the most fun things, is whacking somebody over the head with a foam sword.
I never did LARPing. I did the other side of LARPing. I did the reenactment thing. I did the 8th to 11th century Viking stuff.
Wow.
It's the same thing. It's just it's metal instead of foam. So it really hurts. Like really hurts if you don't get out of the way quick enough. But that's one of the first things they teach you is to get out the way.
Get out of the way. Yeah. You can dodge the sword. You can dodge a dodgeball.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So this is one of the questions I really enjoy asking DMs. First off, how long have you been playing how long have you been a dungeon master, a keeper? How long have you been RPGing for?
I recently started DMing. I've DM'd a couple of times before for friends and stuff like that, but like on a major scale, this is my first one. I have about 4 years playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
On and off.
The reason I ask is because, like I say, this is one of my favorite things to ask sort of dungeon masters or keepers. Have you ever found yourself in a situation outside of game, like quote unquote in real life, where you've channeled those DM skills?
Definitely. At work. Definitely at work. Talking to like different clients, I'd try to like make them laugh, make them not think about the call that they're on. There have been times where I've tripped on the street and I'm like, all right, I just failed that roll. Yeah, it's like little stupid things like that. Like if I feel very hyper or like inspired that day, I'd be like, oh, I guess I gave myself an inspiration point.
No, like this is the reason why I love asking that question, is because like it goes the full gamble for people with like social anxiety all the way through to people like yourself where it becomes part of you. Because I 100% do the same thing. Like if I come out of a meeting that's gone really well, I'm like, oh, I rolled really high on charisma.
Yeah.
Nat 20 on charisma. Like even to people that don't even play D&D, I'm like, Nat 20 on charisma. And they're like, I don't know what you're saying.
They're just like, what? I don't understand that.
Wait. Just take a seat. Let's discuss D&D. So have you noticed a bit of a shift in the perception of D&D over the last sort of four-ish years?
Definitely. It's gone a lot more mainstream, and I single-handedly say that Critical Role did that.
Yeah, Crit Roll definitely led the charge.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of years ago, I was just searching on YouTube one day, and I randomly found Critical Role, and like from that day on, I binged the hell out of it. Like I didn't even know who most of these people were. I knew who Matt Mercer was because I played previous games. But when, you sit down and you start Googling these people's names, you find out, oh shit, they played my favorite character in an anime or in a video game. Oh, that's really cool. These guys are just as nerdy as me. But the downside of it being more mainstream is that I feel like people think that when they see Critical Role, that's what they expect Dungeons and Dragons to be.
The Mercer effect.
Yes, the big Mercer effect. I've been on tables where we've acted crazy, stupid. We were in our characters. And there have been times where we've sat at tables and it's been, all right, guys, what do you want to do? And we don't really role play. We just kind of go with the flow, the story. I attack, I roll dice, and, you see people on their phones and stuff. And I've been in places where it's in the middle. We're having fun. People are still on their phones. They're not really deep into the story as most people should be.
They're not engaged.
Yeah, they're not engaged. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. I thank Critical Role for that because they brought the game that I love so much into, public eyes. Again, it has a reinsurgence. Thankfully this time around, it's not like, oh, D&D's satanic cult. It's more of, it's just people having fun and rolling dice, being nerds.
No, I agree. I think crit roll certainly led the charge, but yeah, it does bring with it the Mercer effect, which is kind of tough. I think it's something that's come up in pretty much every interview that we've run so far because it is that prevalent. The best answer that I've ever found to that, it was on Reddit. I'm sure I read it on Reddit. It was like all these people turn up expecting you to be Matthew Mercer. It's like, that's fine. I'll be Matthew Mercer if you be Travis Willingham.
Yeah, I completely understand that. On Twitter, I tweeted out a picture to Matt Mercer like last year during the summer, and it was a meme of Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Spider-Man from the movie The Avengers. And it was the moment where Peter's going to Tony, I want to be like you. And Tony turns around and goes to him, I want you to be me, but better. I sent that out and I tagged Matt Mercer on it. And I was like, this is what you feel for all of these DMs that came out of nowhere because of Critical Role. And he responded to me and he was like, yeah, this is exactly how I feel. I want, aspiring DMs to be better than me, but in the comfort of their own, in their own play style.
I think that's the biggest thing that I personally that I'd want anyone to take away from listening to these interviews is that you are your own DM.
Yes, definitely. You are your own DM. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to find things. Personally, people listening to this and they want to become DM, I would say do not listen to Critical Role. Don't look at Critical Role until you've started playing. Get an idea on how D&D works. With people who are first players, listen to the Adventure Zone. Their first season, the Balance campaign, those first 10, 15 episodes, it's like every game that I've ever sat at. And it's, people talking out of character, asking questions. And you could tell that Griffin, at a certain point, keeps on hooking each and every one of them. And I think it was the Murder on the Brockport Limited. That's when he kind of made everything come together. And that's kind of like the guideline where I'm taking, where I'm giving these characters a certain point until all right, this is where the training wheels come off. This is where, we're going to go into this head first.
The best way to learn D&D is to play D&D.
Definitely.
You need to jump in. You need to just start playing because you'll pick it up so much quicker. And then you start to work out what rules work for you and what rules don't. Like the Dungeon Master's Guide is it's guidelines.
It's a guide. It's not, it says it in the name. It's a guide. You don't have to follow it word for word. If you feel like something doesn't work for you, tweak it up a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. Every DM does it. Every DM does it one way or another. Even if they say that they don't, trust me, they do.
It's very, very true. Yeah. Well, you never trust the DM. That's the first rule. Never trust the DM.
That needs to be a shirt.
Yeah, never trust the DM. Never trust a smiling DM.
Oh no, the DM smiles. It's too late.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When you play D&D, what's the reason you keep coming back to the table?
Oh man. So this is gonna fall into why I started DMing. So a couple of years ago, I was going through some stuff mentally. I was in a really bad place, and I kind of didn't really have many people to turn to. It was something that I tried to do on my own, get over on my own. That's where I found Critical Role. Again, I binged it. I drove my roommates crazy. Anytime they walked into my room, Critical Role was playing. You don't know how long those episodes are, 3 to 4 hours. I think I finished the first season in 2 months, which is crazy. I noticed that certain thoughts in my head weren't coming to me when I was watching Critical Role. And little by little, I started digging myself up out of this mental hole that I was in. One day I asked a bunch of my friends, hey, let's meet up at this local game shop. Let's play D&D. I'm going to try this. And I spent a couple of days writing the story, and I was feeling happy. A bunch of my friends showed up. We played. We had fun that night. It was amazing. For me, it's the collaboration of you and your friends and the time that you put into this, showing this to them, knowing that they're having fun, knowing that whatever troubles they might have at home, at work, whatever the case may be, that once they sit down on the table, they're able to shed that human skin off and become this other person, even if it's for an hour, even if it's for 2 hours, 30 minutes sometime. You're somebody different that you don't need these thoughts in your head. That saved me. Critical Role saved me. If somehow, some way, Matt Mercer listens to this, you saved me. There was a date written for something that I'm not going to say, but I'm pretty sure listeners will know what I'm talking about. And I forgot about that day. And it was because of Dungeons and Dragons. And now I'm having the time of my life with my friends. And I'm sorry, the tears coming on. Yeah, I'm having the time of life with my friends, and we're just having fun. If somebody else listens to this or to my podcast, and they're like, you know what, I'm going through some stuff right now, why not let me give this a try? For becoming a DM, writing your story, giving yourself time to not have those thoughts in your head and just write something different on paper, on your computer, and just use that as an outlet for you can not end up hurting yourself, or for you can try to bring yourself out of this hole that you might be in. Like, give it a try. It saved me. I'm pretty sure it saved a bunch of other people. Writing works. It may not be for everybody, but it definitely worked for me. And that's why I believe I still play, I still participate, I still listen to, I still watch almost anything that has to deal with Dungeons and Dragons. That game saved me, literally. Like, if I could meet anybody who's a part of Wizards of the Coast, I'd be like, listen, this game helped me. This game saved me. Like, you guys don't know really how far your reach is getting to people.
It's true. Yeah. It's an incredibly powerful message, and you are absolutely correct. It saves people. It does. And it pushes the darkness away for a few hours.
Yeah, even if the story is dark, it still pushes your own personal demons and away just for a bit, just so you could breathe, not feel this weight of the world on your shoulders. I'm pretty sure I have a session in like 2 hours. I'm going to forget about the day, about all the problems until, probably afterwards, where it all comes back. But for that time, I'm going to feel happy, relieved. I'll be able to breathe.
Yeah. I couldn't have put it better myself. For that reason alone, I'm very glad that date no longer exists. Now,
I'm very happy also.
With that being said, I haven't given you any prior warning to this, it's very clear. I'm going to need you to recommend to the good folks listening a book to read, a movie to watch, and a TV show to listen to. Wait, TV show to watch as well. I messed that one up.
Yeah. Okay, so a book to read. Personally, again, it fits with the nerdy motif.
This is Alex the human, not Alex the DM. Yeah. If you wanna blur those lines, you can.
No, it's kind of blurred. Definitely pick up Wrath of the Lich King. It's one of the World of Warcraft books by, I believe, Christy Golden. It's the story of Arthas and how he became the Lich King, basically. A TV show to watch. I'm currently rewatching Shameless. If you guys have never seen, if you haven't seen the US version of it, watch it. It's on Netflix. It's awesome to binge.
I have not seen the US version, but being from Blighty, I've definitely seen the British version.
See, I want to see the British version and to see like the differences. Because if this show is that messed up, I could just imagine how the British version would be. Because British TV is
a beautiful description.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what was the other one? A movie to watch?
A movie, yeah, a film.
John Wick.
Oh yes.
Any one of the three. Like, I'm pretty sure I have to have my roommate watch the third John Wick. But either way, like, those movies are amazing. It restarted Keanu Reeves' career. If you like just action movies, just watch it. And it has a really good story too. The whole Continental and their spy world is something that I would definitely do as a campaign for Monster of the Week.
I could see that working. Yeah, I could definitely see that working. Then on to the final question, the final dreaded question, which is Dirty Dancing or Footloose?
Dirty Dancing.
That's a very firm Dirty Dancing.
I'm sorry. I like Kevin Bacon, but not as much as Patrick Swayze. And I had an ex who was crazy about that movie. That was her favorite movie. So anytime it was on, I would watch it. I know that movie like the back of my hand. I know the songs like the back of my hand. That should tell you something. And not Dirty Dancing 2. That one sucked. Stick with
We
the
don't know.
original.
No. We don't talk about Dirty Dancing 2. It never happened. It wasn't a thing. It was a blip in the
Yeah,
Matrix.
it was just called Havana Nights.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you watch it as a different movie. It's got nothing
Yeah,
to do.
but definitely Dirty Dancing.
Fantastic. That's good to know. Just keeping a running tally.
What's the tally at now?
Oh, that'd be telling. You'd have to listen to the other episodes to find out. Thank you very much, guys, for listening to another episodes of the Forever DM. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, Alex. Like, genuinely, really appreciate it. That was
It's not a problem, man. I had a bunch of fun being here. A lot of fun talking to you, sharing a part of my soul that not a lot of people know about me.
It was. Do you know what I liked about that? It was the fact that there was some really cool tips in there, but a really powerful message, and that is something that everyone should take to heart, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you again. Thank you so much. It's been awesome, guys. Check out this guy's podcast. I don't think we've talked about it yet, but check.
No, we have not.
Do you want to sum up the podcast like super quick?
Sure. All right. I am the DM of In the Dicebox Slam. You could join us every other Wednesday on Spotify. It's where I take Dungeons and Dragons and I mix it with the world of professional wrestling. Currently, we have a little bit of wrestling involved in it, but mostly it's been Dungeons and Dragons. One of my players is a professional wrestler that goes by the name of Nyla Rose. You could check her out every Wednesday on TNT with All Elite Wrestling.
Whoa.
Yes, and if you know wrestling, that's the new company that's out right now in the wrestling world. But yeah, she was their women's champion for a bit. So I could say that I am the first D&D podcast to have a former wrestling heavyweight champion on it.
100%. That goes on like after the title, just in small letters, just underneath it.
Listen, we got shouted out on YouTube already with her show.
That's so cool.
There's a guy there called Brandon Cutler, and he's the D&D guy. Like his gimmick, his wrestling stuff, he comes out in a jacket that's all of the colors of Tiamat. He rolls a giant red 20 on his entranceway. He has dice on his tights and everything.
I need to start watching wrestling again. This sounds amazing.
It's a new company. It sounds amazing. It is amazing. But yeah, he's their D&D guy, and he was having a match, and she was doing commentary. And she kind of slipped in, hey, if you want to, learn how to play D&D and stuff, you listen to In the Dicebox Slam. So for you aspiring DMs out there, if you're listening to this podcast, the Forever DM, and you feel like taking tips and tricks or listening to another story, definitely check us out. Check out your personal campaign also, which sounds amazing. Hopefully I will be able to join in that table one day. Yeah,
Clash of Quests, man. Yeah, 100%. There is an opening for one-shots that will be running future by other DMs. Oh,
okay. Well, you could definitely sign me up for that.
But thank you very much for listening, guys. Please check out In the Dicebox. It sounds amazing. Please check those out, and obviously come back, check us out. Again, you can catch Clash of Quests every single Saturday. Once again, thank you so much, guys. Be lucky. Bye-bye.